Lots of people have been asking me about my cooking, so rather than write down recipes, which gets a little bit tedious, I'm actually going to do a demonstration here. And I'm doing something very simple today for lunch. It's just curried rice. So I'm going to describe how I've prepared what I've got here first. So I've got some rice from yesterday, just plain white rice, basmati rice. And then I've got some boiled potatoes that I've chopped very small, sweet potato that I've chopped very small, finely chopped onion, finely chopped chestnut mushrooms and finely chopped red pepper. In addition to that, I've got some flaked almonds and some sultanas, some peas because it's nice to have some green in the meal I think, half a lemon. I tend to use lemon quite a lot just to get the balance right with the salty, sweet, etc. Some Schwartz medium curry powder, some celery salt and turmeric, which I use for virtually, I start every meal with turmeric, as you will have read in the blog. And actually something I do need to add is black pepper, because the black pepper helps to absorb the turmeric in your system, makes it easier to absorb. So I'm going to start the way that I start every meal, which is to put some extra virgin, gently heat some extra virgin olive oil in my nice deep pan here. I think it has a particular name, this kind of pan, but I find it really, really useful. So just heat that up, but not very much because, as you know, extra virgin olive oil mustn't get too hot. And then I'm going to add the onions, and with the onions I'm going to put a spoon of turmeric and a good shake, good twist of black pepper. As I said, the pepper helps to absorb the turmeric. So I'm just going to let that heat, and I'm going to add the onion. It's not sizzling, but then you don't really want it to sizzle. With it being extra virgin olive oil. Just let it cook a little bit first though. So I'm just letting that cook gently, the onion cook gently in the oil without it burning, because you don't want your extra virgin olive oil to burn. And I'll get my turmeric ready here. You can see I have a giant pot of turmeric, and that tells you how much we go through, because I start every dish, as I've said, with about a heaped teaspoon of turmeric and a few twists of black pepper. So the onion is now just getting nicely coated with the oil, and I'm going to add the spoon of turmeric. So about that much. Pop that out of the way now, and then a few twists of black pepper from the pepper grinder. That's quite a lot of pepper really, isn't it? But it tends to taste okay. Okay. If I was doing a different kind of dish, say a bean stew or a veggie stew or a fish stew, I would generally put in some garlic and some finely chopped chilli, red chilli, and some ginger, some fresh ginger as well. But I'm not going to do with this dish because that wouldn't work for this, and it doesn't really need it. But that tends to be a basic starter for me. Usually with some cumin and coriander as well. But for this one, I'm just sticking with the absolute basics there. Just be a little bit careful with the turmeric because it gets everywhere and stains everything. Now, I'm going to put the onion into a bowl. Transfer that into a bowl. I'm going to use some extra light olive oil here. I'm going to heat it up. not too much. I never use too much oil really. And I'm going to cook the sweet potato. So very, very finely chop this sweet potato, which means I don't need to boil it first. And the way that I flavour this is with some celery salt. And I then leave that, giving it the occasional stir, but probably for a good 5 minutes. You wouldn't actually think the sweet potato would become soft cooking it this way, but it does. And you don't want it very soft either, you just want it slightly firm. So, tiny little bit of boiling water there. Let it sizzle. Turn the heat right down and put the lid on, but not quite, so it just lets the steam come out. And I'm just going to leave that for about 5 minutes now, and that should be fine. So after a few minutes, you just need to check on it, give it a bit of a stir so that it doesn't stick, and probably taste a little piece as well. So I'm going to actually add that to the onions in the bowl. And in fact, something I should have done or could have done with the onions, just for a moment or two, is the sultanas and the almonds. So tiny little bit of oil there, low heat again, and a few flaked almonds. Pop those in. And probably make sure I've separated those sultanas. I don't know, I don't tend to measure things, I tend to go by look. So if you want to have a look in the pan, you can probably see how much I have there. And give those a bit of a stir. So they're now taking on a little bit of the flavourings. There's still some of the turmeric and some of the celery salt because I haven't actually washed the pan. Some of the flavourings from the things that I've done previously, but that's okay. It just adds to the flavour. And I'm never quite sure when to add the curry powder actually, whether to put it in with the rice at the end, or whether to put it in at this stage. So I think I'll actually put it in now. So I'll just, and again, I don't tend to measure in terms of teaspoons or whatever, but I do put quite a good shake. On a very low heat. This may not be the best way to do this at all, and perhaps if somebody has a better way of doing it, it would be lovely to hear from you. A lot of what I do is trial and error. At the end of the cooking though, most people seem to really like what I've done, the way it turns out. So I'm going to take that off, and again I'm going to add that to the mixture. So if you have a look in the blue bowl now, there are the onions with the turmeric, the sweet potato with the celery salt, and then the sultanas and the almonds with the curry powder. And what I'm going to do now is a little bit more of the extra light oil. It might seem as if I'm using a lot of oil, but I use very little each time actually, as little as I can get away with really. You need quite a bit of extra virgin olive oil when you're doing the turmeric, the onions and the turmeric, because the the oil seems to absorb the turmeric almost immediately. It becomes very dry, so you do need enough there. Now I'm going to turn the flame up a little bit to cook the peppers and the mushrooms. So that should be enough now in terms of heating it. You can hear the mushrooms sizzle slightly and the peppers as I add them. And I'm just going to keep stirring those until I feel that they're ready. I don't want anything soft and soggy. And while that's doing, I'm going to heat some water because I'm going to need that for the rice. I've just boiled the kettle now, so I'm coming over to see how this is doing, and it's still sizzling and cooking nicely and looking a really nice colour actually. I think it means it's just about done, which is great, because in a moment I'm going to add the other ingredients, and last of all I'm going to add the rice. And that's when we'll need the water to keep it moist. So there we go. And we're ready now I'm going to just throw this in. The next ingredient I'm going to put in is some frozen peas, and all I've done with those is pour boiling water on them when I started putting everything out, and they'll be fine. I'm going to drain the water away, add them, and last of all, because they're quite soft, chop very small new potatoes, boiled. There we go. So just let that all cook together. And last of all, I'm going to put the rice in. I'm never quite sure how much rice. It tends to be what I've got left, but I can see here I've got far too much rice. I don't need to put all this in at all. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably 6 scoops. 6 scoops of cooked basmati rice. So I've got a little bit of boiling water in there to stop it becoming too dry. And give it a really good stir because it's now got everything in that it needs. The one thing I haven't added yet, and I will add now, is the half a lemon, and that will balance out the celery salt, which is a healthier option to just the salt, but it's still salty. So I'm going to squeeze the lemon on there, and it also gives it a little bit of a Middle Eastern tan, because they use the lemon a lot with the salt. So there we go. All in all, it's taken about, it was probably about 15 minutes to prepare the veg, half an hour to boil the potatoes, but you may already have some boiled potatoes in the fridge, and only between 10 and 15 minutes to cook. So a very quick and easy lunch, and then whatever's left, probably eat tonight. Maybe with a vegetable curry. So I'm going to put the lid on, put it on a very low heat over here. So to go with our rice, we're going to have some fresh prawns. I always buy them fresh. It was a friend that introduced me to cooking them yourself rather than buying them all plump and pink and ready cooked, and I really like them done this way. So the first thing you need to do, and also they're a little bit cheaper when you buy them like this, you need to wash them. They must be washed. So I'm going to just put them in the colander, rinse them around, give them a really good rinse. Let that water drain away and dry them on some kitchen towel. In fact, I'll put them in the bowl here. Wrap them all up, put them in a bowl and pat them dry. Just like that. Prawns are there, wrapped up and drying. The light oil, little bit of light oil, is just heating up in the pan there. In fact, while I'm just waiting for that, I'm going to have a little bit of taste of the rice and see if it's sufficiently flavoured. I don't think it is. I don't think that's sufficiently flavoured. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to make a little bit of stock. So I'm going to boil the water again. I'm going to put a little bit of bouillon to give it flavour. A little bit more boiling water. Stir that round. It was also very dry actually, and you need to keep it moist. And it's not going to hurt to keep it on the flame a little bit longer. So there I am with bouillon in there. That's looking a lot better to me now, and I think it will be tastier and definitely more moist. So I'm going to pop the lid back on. By now we're heated up here, so we're going to cook the prawns. And the way that we do this, the way that I do this, is to lay them all flat in the pan, to give a couple of twists of salt. I also have a little bit of lemon juice left, so I might save that till the end. I don't stir them around because actually all you want is them to cook one side, probably about a minute, and then turn each one over and cook the other side. So I'm going to start turning them round. Okay, so they're beginning to cook nicely. I've turned all the prawns round, and I'm just going to let them cook a little bit longer. I personally like them quite crispy. You need to be careful because obviously you don't want them to burn. So to defeat the objective of trying to be healthy, you just don't want burnt food. And while they're cooking, I'm going to have another little taste and see if that has improved, if the rice has improved. It definitely has, but I'm going to add a little bit more of the curry powder. Not too much, but just enough. As I say, I'm never quite sure when to add it. That might not have been the best way to do it at all. But because it's a sort of a hot pot and everything goes in, it tends to just work out and be okay in the end. So here we are with the prawns, looking very tasty now. This is quite an old pan, which is why they get nice and crispy. But I have to be very careful not to overdo them. Okay, that's looking good. Last little bit of lemon squeezed on, just to give that flavouring. Okay, so ready to serve. So a couple of spoons of rice, the rice mix. It is mainly veg. And then we can always come back for more, depending if people want to. Okay, so I'll put a little bit more in this one, a bit more in that one. And then put the prawns on top. Not wanting to come out. There we go. So here we have a nice, healthy, tasty lunch. Cheers! Cheers! Enjoy. And there's plenty more if you want some more soon. Lots more rice. It made lots.
Wow.
Nice?
Really good.